There's like three major areas where this becomes problematic for gym owners: the onboarding, holds, cancellations, and then like the types of memberships that you sell. So I'll give a very specific example of creating things logically so then that you can hold the line. So I had a cancellation come through a couple months ago, and it came through and I was like, that's weird. I don't like, I know for a fact this person's not here. And long story short, go back to October of last year. Lady came in. She was great, right? Went through the onboarding, paid in full for 6 months. Got it. And then things got shut down for some military stuff. So paid in full for 6 months, put the membership on hold. So it didn't like the following month because there were some restrictions about movement that people didn't want to violate. And they're like, okay, cool, put it on hold. So put it on hold for 3 months. And then that 3 months expired, membership kicks back in. That runs its course. The membership runs its course. It's full course. So she got all the months available to her, and then submitted a cancellation after the paid in full duration had expired, but hadn't been in, even though we have constant communication, constant reach outs, right? So it hasn't been in a while, and wants a refund. Okay. Now, I will tell you point blank, there are scenarios here where I have given people their money back because it's the right thing to do.
And there's always going to be those examples,
always,
right?
right?
Like
No.
you said it earlier. I'm not saying don't discount it, don't make
Right.
these changes. It just they should be
How-
far and few in between.
Right. However, I probably would have caved had I didn't have the structure and the whys and all of the logical points behind it so that I could feel good and authoritatively hold the line and say, you're not getting your money back. Okay. So there's like, and so Cassidy was managing it, and then it got a little testy in the email, at which point I was like, he's like, I'm going to punt this over to you. So punts it over to me.
Before I do something I regret.
No, I just think that that's where a little bit more my skill set, which is the professional, but hard no. And so I went back and I went through and I was like, hey, listen, here's the deal. And I walked through the timeline where there was nothing lost. And I pulled all of the documentation. I pulled the waiver, which has all these things listed in it, pulled the transparency sheet, which has all the things listed in it. And I pulled the hold and the cancellation forms that has everything listed in it. And I provided all 4 pieces of documentation. Okay. Walked through the timeline. And then I was able to authoritatively say, and then she said, well, I chose not to come in because of these things. At which point I was like, oh, cool. That's your decision. We reached out to you. It's not like we've been absent. You get 2 emails from me every week, and we've reached out to you. I was like, I have a minimum of 14 pieces of individual communication to you on this subject. You're not getting your money back. Why? Yeah. Because you chose not to come in. Right. And it's not like we ghosted you and it was like, like we were out of sight, out of mind. I'm like, we do far more communication with our member base than almost any gym. We don't pummel them with nonsense, but we communicate on a 2-time-a-week cycle. That's just via email. That's not via like weekly follow-ups. That's not via like just texting for gym closures in that 6 to 8 months, like whatever. Like you got 20 to 25 pieces of communication from us, like at least 3 a month at that point. So having all of that in place, I don't mind holding the line there. But I not only don't mind it, I'm like, authoritatively, what I went back and I said, I'm having a hard time coming up with a reason why I would refund this.
Right. Like I want to be the nice
if I wanted to,
right.
I couldn't possibly come up with an objective reason other than you just want your money back. And I'm like, that is not fair.
Which, by the way, I shouldn't say a nice person. That's not true. You're a business owner, which doesn't always align with being the nice person, right? Like you should be, but sometimes you have to make business right. Fair is the right word.
Fair, right? And I want to be fair. And I made it a business decision because I saw this as not fair. I was like, I have upheld this policy for people that had way more gray scenarios than this one. Like this one is black and white by literally every outline of the scenario. Like at no point was there a scenario here that unfolded, at which point I'm like, I could kind of see where you're coming from here. I'm like, nope, it was black and white the whole time. And I have all this documentation that's very clearly laid out. And I, like I said, I have done that. I'm like, hey, the right thing to do is give your money back here. So I'm going to give you your money back. This was not it. However, had I not done all of these things prior to, had I not logically thought through all these scenarios and put structure in place, that they're kind of like my backstop on these scenarios so that I could point to these and be like, no, no, here's how it worked. Here's what we talked about. Here's the agreement that we made. Here was the scenario that wrote out. Here's the exact timeline by day. No, I'm not giving that back to you.